What's up?
How you doing, guys? Lindsey, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. So everybody in this room, I think, is well aware of all the accomplishments that you've had throughout your career. But I think the question we're all wanting to know is, how did you get into skiing at such a young age? Like, tell me the details of you being that little girl on skis, 2 years old, to who you are now.
It's been a long time since I first got on snow, but my dad was a ski racer growing up, and we lived in Minnesota, and there was a small hill called Buck Hill that we lived next to, and my dad grew up skiing there. And so, yeah, I don't know. I always loved it. You know, I enjoyed being with my family, and I enjoyed skiing with my dad. And I had spent a lot of time on his back in a backpack before I could walk skiing. So I don't know. It's just always been a part of my life. And I've tried other sports, you know, like figure skating and gymnastics, but I was just pretty terrible at everything besides skiing. So I think I just stuck with what I knew and what I enjoyed.
So throughout your childhood, it was a very rigorous practice schedule. Can you talk about how difficult it was to have a little bit different of a childhood than most children around the country, where you were constantly practicing, constantly shuttling back and forth from Minnesota to Colorado and back, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. You know, a lot of people in my school growing up didn't really understand what I was doing. You know, Minnesota is not really known for their ski racing, so they're a little bit confused. But yeah, I mean, it was hard for my family. You know, like you said, going back and forth from Minnesota to Colorado, and you know, eventually moving out there. I'm the oldest of 5 kids, 3 of which are triplets. So it was a really big commitment for my family, and I don't know, I never went to prom. I don't know, I missed out on kind of the fun social life that is supposed to be happening, I guess, in high school. But I enjoyed what I did. You know, I loved traveling. I went to Europe for the first time when I was 9 years old by myself with my team, and I don't know, I had some really amazing experiences, maybe not the typical childhood, but I enjoyed it.
Right. Well, clearly you're a walking example of hard work pays off. But, you know, you putting in all that practice, you clearly weren't alone. Can you talk about some of the role models you had growing up?
Yeah, Peekaboo Street was one of my biggest role models. I met her in a ski shop in Minnesota when I was 9. And I don't know what it was about her, but her personality was so electrifying, and she was basically the reason why I wanted to be an Olympian, because I wanted to be just like her. And that's part of the reason why I started the Lindsey Vonn Foundation, is because I know the impact that one person can have on a kid, and it may be, you know, a 2-minute conversation or a high five or an autograph, but that stays with them for a long, long time. And so, you know, that's why I'm always trying to sign as many autographs as I can, and, you know, shake as many kids' hands as I can, because that one moment could have a long-lasting positive effect on them.
Yeah, that's amazing. So my next question for you was, can you talk about your foundation, what it entails, and how important it is to you?
Well, we just launched in February, and the goal is to empower and inspire young women and allow them to, you know, fulfill their dreams. And we're kind of partnering up with different foundations to try to, you know, do that as much as we can. The first foundation we're partnering with is Z Girls, and they basically have a curriculum and teaches them different lessons. So like positive self-talk, positive self-image, you know, how to take something that someone says and criticizes you into something positive where you can work on being a better person. Also cyberbullying, which is a huge problem these days, and I don't know, it just really clicked with me and my vision for the foundation, so we're going to start working with them and launch the first kind of camps and circles in October.
That's great. Now, thinking back to the slopes, what are some of the biggest obstacles you've had to overcome aside from your major injury?
Besides my major injuries, that was my answer.
I wasn't going to give you the easy way out.
Dang it. There is definitely a lot of hard times. I mean, you know, like I said, my family moved out to Colorado for me, and, you know, my brothers and sisters had a hard time adapting. You know, they were young, and so a new school and new friends was difficult. There's also a time in my life when I was, I think, 16 where I had terrible results. I think I didn't finish in 50 out of 55 races. And I don't know, my parents, my family was kind of freaking out because they had put so much money and effort into making me a great skier, and I wanted to quit because it wasn't fun anymore. But I figured it out. I actually used every penny that I had made to hire a new trainer, and I committed myself to my sport, and I finally started to make really good progress. So I think, throughout my life, no matter what setbacks or injuries I've overcome, it just is a matter of picking yourself back up and believing in yourself. I've never lost faith in myself, maybe slightly, but never completely.
Is that how you define success?
Yeah, I mean, success is doing the best that you can and being, proud of who you are. And it's not about winning a race or winning the Olympics. It's about being the best person you can be, and that means you're a successful person. That's what I think, anyways.
Now, tell me about the push for the Olympics in 2018. You've decided to participate. Have you begun training?
Yeah, I mean, every race that we do, we have World Cup races every year and World Championships. We just had the World Championships in my hometown of Vail, Colorado this February, and so we're always competing. It's not like, we don't do anything for 4 years until the Olympics. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next games in South Korea. I'm actually going to go over there to check out the venue in a few days, which will be a long trip, but I'm excited. I obviously was disappointed to not have been in the last Olympics in Sochi because of my knee, but the Olympics is, it's what I've always dreamed about as a kid. I think my biggest accomplishment in my career was the Vancouver Olympics when I won gold, and so I just want to hopefully try to get that feeling again.
Yeah. Can you take me back to that moment when you got the diagnosis and what was going through your head there?
Well, I mean, the first injury, the first crash was pretty obvious. It was pretty violent, and I knew right away that something was really wrong, and pretty much tore up everything in my knee. The second crash was I was more optimistic. I had hoped that it wasn't completely torn, but unfortunately it was. And I kept trying to ski, but obviously you want to do everything you can to be in the Olympics, but it just didn't work, and I ended up doing more damage. So I don't know. They're both pretty crappy.
So you're on the comeback trail now, ready to compete in the Olympics in a couple of years. When your career is finally over, how do you want Lindsey Vonn to be remembered by?
As a caring and kind person that's given back to the sport and to the next generation, and someone that's won a lot.
Obviously. So do you watch any other sports? Do you enjoy playing any other sports?
I really love tennis. If I had a second chance at a sport, if I were actually good at it, I would love to be a tennis player. It's a lot easier to carry around rackets than skis. But obviously I love golf, and I don't know, I guess it's not really a sport, but I love scuba diving. I love being in the water, and it's so quiet down there. I don't know, it's just, since I've been injured, I've had to find, other things to do and other things to kind of, fill that adrenaline void. And scuba diving's been really, really fun. I enjoy doing it.
So you talk about your heroes, like your parents, your family, Peekaboo Street. Are there any particular athletes that you've kind of marveled from a distance and actually have never met but consider them role models?
Well, Roger Federer has always been a big role model of mine. I think he's an incredible athlete, but he's also really humble. And I have met him, like, we're pretty good friends, and he's just, you would never know that he's one of the best tennis players of all time, probably the best tennis player of all time. And he's great with his kids, and I don't know, he's just a really nice guy. I feel like that's a really rare trait these days, to be genuinely a nice person to everyone, not just when it suits you, but all the time. And obviously, my boyfriend has always been a dominant athlete and someone that, before I met, had definitely looked up to. So, like those guys.
Gotcha. So one more question before we open it up to the audience. When you look at the whole spectrum of your career, can you boil it down to one accomplishment that you're most proud of?
I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to say, but I think the Olympic gold medal was my best accomplishment, mostly because it meant the most to me, but also my family. Since they had given up so much for me to accomplish that goal, it was just a really emotional victory. I cried for a really long time. I don't think I could even answer any questions in the interviews afterwards. I was just bawling, and my family was there, and we were all just crying as a family, and it was just really special. So that's probably the most special moment of my life.
That's amazing. All right, do we have any questions from the audience?
Thanks for joining us here, and thanks for being an inspiration to me and other weekend warriors who actually have been through ACL reconstruction. It's quite a difficult road, and it's really hard to recover and be back on skis. So just want to ask you, besides your home hill, where is your favorite place to free ski, as well as where is your favorite place to play golf?
Okay, so I can't say Vail. Dang it. Okay, I'd probably say Saint Anton in Austria or Maribel, France. I really love Maribel. You can ski kind of to mountain, and it's a cool experience. And I don't really play golf very much, so I'd probably say Pebble Beach. I have played there. I made par one time. That's about all. I don't know anywhere else.
That wasn't better than the gold medal? Yeah.
Hi. Can you talk a little bit about how you dealt with the disappointment after your injury, leading up to not going to Sochi as you had expected?
Yeah, it was really disappointing and pretty depressing. I mean, it's hard for Olympic athletes because it's only once every 4 years. I think it seems like it goes by fast for outsiders because there's always a Summer Olympics, but for us, 4 years is a really long time. So I had to get over the fact that, all that work that I had put in was for nothing, and that was hard to take. But what gave me hope and what kept me positive was the next Olympics. Obviously I'll be 33, so a little bit older, but I know it's possible. I know I can do it, and that just kept me pushing forward.
So at some point in your career, you realized that you became the role model for all of these women and these young girls. How did that transition to deciding to start your foundation?
Well, I've always wanted to have a foundation, and I've always wanted to give back. I've always been drawn to kids, but it was because of my injury that I actually had the time to be able to put it together. I have always felt like with skiing, I couldn't do the best I could at skiing and a foundation at the same time. So, being injured really gave me the opportunity to start it. And Tiger also, gave me a pretty big push, and because I don't know what I'm doing. It's I'm not an expert at starting foundations. But he started his own foundation when he was 20, which is pretty unbelievable. And he's helped so many kids, and he's had so much success. And so his model and, his foundation gave me inspiration to be able to do it on my own. So, I just want to help kids.
Hi. I was just wondering, since you were injured and you were unable to participate in the last Olympics, I know as athletes get older, they're a little more injury prone, so I was wondering if you were modifying your training in any way leading up to the next Olympics to avoid what happened to you last time.
Yeah, great question. I'm limited in what I can do now anyways. I can't run. Not that I really loved running anyways, but I can't do a lot of jumping. Like, I have to limit the amount of impact that I have on my knee, because the biggest problem I face is not necessarily the ACL, but it's the meniscus damage. I had severe meniscus damage after trying to ski on it with no ACL, and I just only have so much cushion, and eventually it'll be gone. So it's a matter of, maintaining what I have as much as possible, limiting the impact, and being able to make it to the next 3 years. But I have a great physio, and she does an amazing job, so I think I'll be fine. I just have to be really careful, and also, make sure my quad is incredibly strong so that it can support the knee as much as possible. So I think the combination of those two things should help me get through it.
Hi, thanks for being here. So you talked about your injury. Do you think that kind of like everything happens for a reason? Do you think like kind of if your injury didn't happen, you kind of wouldn't have the foundation, or do you kind of think that you would have always had it, or how do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I always think that everything happens for a reason. And after the first injury, I thought maybe the reason for this is so that I can come back stronger for the Olympics and, do something amazing. And then I hurt myself again, and I was like, well, what does this mean? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? I've worked so hard, and it's gone. But now that I'm in this position, I can look back and say that it was because I was injured, and that reason is that I started the foundation. And, I would never have been able to do that if I hadn't been injured for the second time. I just didn't have the time, and I was so focused on the Olympics, but after that was gone, then I had a new focus. So, I still believe everything happens for a reason.
We have time for one more question.
Hi. You mentioned that early on you had like a lot of doubts and setbacks and losses, and I'm wondering what you told yourself and what you did to kind of keep going and not switch to some other kind of thing.
Well, I did have a lot of ice cream and watched Law & Order a lot. But, when I was away from the sport for so long, it made me really realize how much I love what I do. And in the end, it wasn't the Olympics that necessarily got me into the gym, but it was the thought of skiing again. And, I don't know what my life would be like without skiing. And so that was kind of internally what drove me and what got me up every morning and, made it all worthwhile. And now, that I'm healthy, I enjoy skiing so much more, like not just racing, but, I go powder skiing and I'm like tree skiing, and I never did that before. I'm from Minnesota, so it's not like, there's any off-piste skiing. There's no, piste, it's just a hill. But, I love being outside. I love being on the mountain, and that's what drove me to get back out there.
All right, guys, thank you so much for coming. Lindsey, thank you.